you all for coming to the third and final Flock Live talk for this year. We're lucky to have Mr Ian Wharton with us today, who's an ex-student from University of Cumbria, studied here a few years ago. But he's going to talk through not only his work but the journey of being a creative, which is actually where you're all at the moment. Ian is a renowned international branding expert, has been highly awarded across many international awards. So definitely well worth a listen. I'm going to hand it over to Ian. Can I have a big round of applause, please? Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks very much. So, hey everyone. Nice to see you all. Nice to meet you all. I graduated from here in 2007, which is about 16 years ago, and I'm both very, very excited to be back, like genuinely really happy to be back. I was grinning all the way, like driving up just on Brompton Road. But I'm also a little embarrassed because I've only been back once since, and that was in 2008. So big failing on my part, but I'm really happy to be here now. I really hope what I have in store for you is going to be useful. As I was driving up, I live in Oxfordshire now, just moved out of London, but as I was driving up, it dawned on me that I still feel 21, even though I'm very much not that, but that I don't necessarily have anything figured out. And I remember being in your position, which was, we had a couple of lecturers, guest lecturers coming when I was studying here. I remember thinking, wow, these folks have really got everything nailed down, know what they're doing. And I'm either a complete outlier, or what I actually suspect is more the case, no one really has anything figured out. So in light of that, what I will say, what I'm going to talk about today, as all of you know, there aren't really any hard and fast rules in creativity. There's no like one way of doing anything, or no absolutes. There's a million ways of doing every single thing. So take the things that I say that resonate with you and ignore the things that don't. And I think that's probably good advice for anyone who stands in front of you on the stage, because we don't know everything. But what we do have is experience, we have stories, and creativity is just damn hard. And I think what we need to inspire us along the way is just these stories, these experiences from others to kind of galvanise us and champion us and the pursuit that we're all on. So I hope I have a little bit of that for you today. So I'll give you a very quick overview of what I've been doing since I left here. Now this is slightly truncated, but for all intents and purposes, this is everywhere I've been more or less since I left what was then Cumbria Institute of the Arts. So I worked and it's kind of broken down into a couple of sections. So I worked at a place called The Mill, which is a visual effects company. They historically were best known for working on the visual effects for the original Gladiator film. So I was a visual effects art director there for a couple of years. But then after that, more or less everything has been design and innovation, broadly speaking. So within that, there's two tech startups that I was either a founding partner of or founded. So today, I'm the founder of a tech startup called Aid, and the chief exec of Aid. But kind of along the way, there's design firms, big design consultancies, and I'll talk about some of the work that we've done along that route. And then somewhere within all of that, I think I came out when I was 27, so I wrote a book about creativity, specifically how youthful thinking helps creativity. It's now 11 years old, it's still available, you can get it on Amazon. I make no money selling books, so that's not why I do it. I get like pennies on the pound, but it's still available if you want to look it up. But actually, a lot of what I'm going to cover today is from the book, actually, a lot of the thinking, at least in the themes. So, I'm going to give you, while showing you some of my work, and showing you some of the fun and struggles and faff along the way, there are definitely a struggle and faff, I'm going to give you 5 things I think will help you accelerate your early creative career. But actually a little bit more than that, I think these 5 things I think will help you have a fulfilling and enduring career, hopefully for decades. And I use all of these things today still to hold myself accountable, to make sure I'm doing the right work in the right way, with the right people, and best using my time, because that's really the main metric of everything. It's just what do you commit your time to and not. So, the first one of those things is unpoliced thought. So, what we ask of creative people, really in any discipline, is that they are free of etiquette. They are free of acting in a way that is kind of predefined, that they are willing to make leaps of innovation and wit and ingenuity to make things that catch us off guard, that somehow push things along in some way, that they arrest our thoughts by making leaps of imagination. I think we all know that's the case with creativity. So what's the problem? The problem is that it's easy to disengage that way of thinking kind of involuntarily as you go through your career. And this first piece is what I want to talk about, which is to hold on to that innate, youthful, unbridled, unbounded way of thinking about creativity. Because as you progress through your careers, it can be quite tricky to hold on to. I'll talk a bit about my personal experience with that. So, what we need in life for a lot of things is rationality. In creativity, you can trade that for efficiency and safety as a result. What we need is the illogical, the unpoliced. So, imagine just for a minute you've got two ideas in front of you. Both for the exact same brief, both solve the exact same problem, but they are very different in their appearance. So idea one is based on precedent. It's based on things that have gone before it, which means it's perfectly rational. We can look at things and say, we have this challenge, we have this idea, and this idea is based on these kind of 10 or 15 things. Therefore, the chances of success are a little bit higher. Right? It's a rational way to approach an idea. Idea two, on the other hand, looks completely illogical. Looks like something a child might have come up with, something where there is no evidence for its possible success, but you're excited about it nevertheless. Idea one is a really safe place to make an investment, because if the idea fails, we can say, it worked these 10 times, we just got a bit unlucky. We did all our homework, we did all the stacking up of practicality and pragmatism. This time, we were caught off guard. Idea two, however, is impossible to predict the outcome of. And because of that, it's really hard to argue as the case for making that particular idea, because it's a leap of faith. It's subjective, we have nothing to show against it that it might work, but it's the one that excites us the most. Idea one is much more prevalent in business and with clients. Idea two is what surfaces potential. And what we have to do as creative people, whether it's the beginning of a career or 20, 30, 40 years later, is champion as much as possible idea number two, because that is genuine creativity. So I'll give you an example. When I left the mill, myself and 3 other people founded a tech startup. This was right at the beginning of the iOS App Store. So it was in 2009. And we were, as a group, we decided we wanted to make digital products direct to consumers, direct to people, just through this weird new medium of the App Store, of which no one understood. No one knew how it worked. There was no way to guess whether or not something was going to be a success or not. And while doing all of that, we said, can we partner with arguably the world's most famous chef, Jamie Oliver? So we produced a project with Jamie Oliver called 20-Minute Meals. And essentially we said, can we work with the most famous chef in the world? Can we develop a cookbook that's fit for the medium, not just a repurposing of a printed version? Can we do that in an industry that no one knows, is unpredictable? And if you put all of those things in a spreadsheet, rationally assess them, you'd say, don't think that's going to stack up, do something else. However, we pursued the illogical creative leap while trying to genuinely make something that we were inspired by, that we thought was a leap for the industry. We worked with Jamie over 3 years. Every piece of content that was in the app was bespoke. It took us about kind of 12 months to build the first version. We spent about 300, give or take, £1,000. For all intents and purposes, that was our own money. And we launched the app. And because of that leap of faith, because of that willing to pursue the illogical idea, we won the Apple Design Award. There was 20 million users of this app internationally. It was one of the top-grossing, top-rated apps of its generation. We got Jamie on the front cover of Wired magazine saying how he conquered the app economy. And we were asked by Apple, genuinely for the launch of the iPad, we were given a test version of the iPad that was encased in steel and chained to a pipe in our office so we couldn't take it anywhere. And we said, there was literally a piece of paper that said, you tell anyone, we're going to murder you. And we built the iPad version of the Jamie Oliver app, which they used to announce the iPad, and that's still shown on stage at the Apple keynote. None of that would have happened if we followed the rational way of thinking for creativity. It was a complete and utter, absolute leap of faith. And what we have to remember is, at the inception of an idea, specifically at that point, irrational beats the rational. Unpoliced creativity is what happens naturally. We're either kind of nudged out of it because of the people we work with, or because of the company we work for, or just because of the pressures and strains of the industry. But really, that's what we need. So increasingly, people will try and have you force certainty on creativity, when actually what we need is the possibility of success. If you try and make a creative endeavour certain, you're following precedent, you're following history, doing things that have been done before. And actually what we need with our partners, with our collaborators, with our commissioners, it needs to have the possibility of success. And when we have that, we know we're working on something that isn't inherently new, something novel, and not something that's been repeated. Okay, number 2. Creativity is entirely transferable. So generally speaking, when you first move into your roles and work with the industry, this was certainly the case for me, that you are taught to specialise. Do one thing and do that one thing well. This gets amplified as you work through your careers. You're hired to do the first thing that you become proficient at, and it's a lot easier for your employers, the companies, the collaborators to say, well, John Smith is good at that, so let's just keep getting John Smith to do this other thing. The consequences of that are we can fall into a trap of trying new things less and less as we work through our careers. Now, I remember when I was your age, and I was a little bit all over the place. I wanted to do lots of different disciplines, I wanted to explore lots of different things, and that's what gave me fuel. I thought I was an outlier, by all respects, and actually I've met thousands of creative students, thousands of creative graduates over the past 10, 20 years, thousands of people, all different seniorities in their lives, but also some really weird, prolific international talent. Vast majority of them, in my experience, want to be multidisciplinary. There are very few people who want to specialise, and that's awesome, but most people want to be multidisciplinary. But something somewhere along the way holds them back from exploring it, from experiencing it. And what we actually need to remember is that creativity is completely transferable. The main reason we don't do this is for fear of trying a new thing, that thing not working, and somehow we think it undoes all of our previous successes and all of our previous learning, which couldn't be further from the case. Creative people have, without question, the gift of agility. To suddenly suggest you can only do one thing well really undersells human potential, in my view. There's no historical basis for this. Good person to point to, and albeit this is buried in aphorisms a lot of the time, but Da Vinci, really great example of this. Widely regarded as the best painter ever to have lived, but also one of the most diversely talented people ever to have lived. If you can imagine someone going back to him and saying, Leo, hey, forget the science, the machinery, the engineering, the biology, the writing, the music, just fucking paint, specialise, goddammit, right? Imagine if someone had told him that he listened, what we would have lost out on. Humans are capable of so much creative breadth, and we are more willing to experience that and explore that kind of where you are right now. And I'm arguing as best I can that you need to continue the argument of that, continue the pursuit of that as best you can through your career. The reason we don't pursue our creative breadth typically falls into these types of arguments, which is the 10,000 hours argument. Who's heard of the 10,000 hours argument, or the 10,000 hours rule? A couple of hands. Mostly by Malcolm Gladwell, I'm guessing, is how you found it. So, I'm not a huge fan of Malcolm Gladwell. We probably wouldn't get on if we met. The reason why I don't love 10,000 hours is because there is, for those who don't know, 10,000 hours was posed by, or popularised by Malcolm Gladwell, saying if you want to be a master of any given thing, you need 10,000 hours of practice of that thing. And at that point, hey, lo and behold, you're a master. Top of your field, top of your craft. Quantity, in terms of how good your discipline is not the right metric at all, because the risk is in its misinterpretation. The risk of the 10,000 hours rule is there is a world of difference between 10,000 hours of mindlessly doing a thing and 10,000 hours of intent with ambition, with a goal of an outcome to get better at a given thing. So here's a quick example. Hands up, who's been typing on a keyboard for the past 5 years? Right, like all of you. Hands up again if you have got measurably better at it in the last 3 months. Right, it's because you're not trying to. You are mindlessly doing a task which you've got kind of good enough to function in the world with. That's the difference. Now, there are tons of people who are good at what they do out in the world. There are a lot less people who love what they do. And it's this type of argument that kind of leads them there. And what it can do is stop someone from exploring a thing that they might be innately better at or innately more desirable because they think they have to get through the 10,000 hours. Creativity is completely transferable. If you're a writer, you can be a designer. If you're a designer, you can be a filmmaker. I'll give you an example. So the course I was on here I was just having a nice chat about it actually. It doesn't exist anymore, but it was called Multimedia Design and Digital Animation. And I threw in advertising as well as an elective just for added stress. And we covered digital product design, visual effects, film, 3D animation, and a few other things. It was a really awesome course. And in our final year, we could specialise. We could do whatever we want. We could pick a thing and do that thing. Now, since I was 16 years old, had been building websites for clients in my hometown of Preston. Literally since I was 16, I was doing that. I don't mean I downloaded Photoshop illegally at 16. I was genuinely approaching clients, trying to get money out of them, and approaching them saying, you don't have a website, I think your business would benefit from having one. And I went to a photographer, I went to a skate shop in Preston, and a property developer, and I built websites for the 3 people from 16 to kind of 18 and a half. And I'd done that before I got here, and I had a portfolio of those things. That's probably one of the reasons why I got kind of the offer to come here, was because I had this portfolio of work already there. However, in my 3rd year, more than anything, myself and a good friend of mine, Ed Shires, who I worked with at the Mill, wanted to make a short animated film. We were in love with the work at Pixar. We were fascinated by how they were able to tell these stories that a 4-year-old kid and a 40-year-old person could enjoy in equal measure. And we were in love with the craft of it, and it seemed like a really great challenge. So we worked on this short film called Solar, and the premise of the film was really simple. It was about night and day, or specifically it was about the sun and the moon. And we took the sun and the moon and we enveloped them in mechanics, kind of Brunel-esque mechanics, like pistons and cogs and railways. And those mechanics depended on the 2 characters called the operator and the giant. And in turn, their whole existence relied on night and day. So classic kind of narrative structure, harmonious loop you can inject an inciting incident into, and then you have your story. And we wanted to make this kind of 5, 6, 7 minute short film. And as we pitched this to our lecturers, who aren't here anymore, who were otherwise super supportive, the response was, too complicated a story to tell. You don't necessarily have the skills, you don't really have the time, do the things that you know. Ian, you do the web, Ed, you just do the modelling. And we never really heard that, so we spent the next 8 months working on the short film. I'll play you a short clip and then talk about why, still to this day, this is one of the most important projects of the past kind of 20, 30 years of my professional life. Absolute labour of love. Like every single day of the 8 months of production, I would wake up, I couldn't wait to see what the challenge there would be. It was really diverse, from the initial artwork, the storyboarding, the modelling, the texturing, the rendering, the editing, the sound. We had worked with an amazing guy who did the music, who was also a student here, as it happens. And it was a complete passion project, and it's still the one that accelerated my career the most in a really short space of time. We were entered by the university, not by us, into the Royal Television Society Awards, and we won the National Royal Television Society Award and the local and then the National RTS Awards, which is really kind of rare actually, and that was an awesome experience. We were shortlisted in a handful of festivals, really well reviewed, and this accelerated our careers like you wouldn't believe. Pre-social media, pre-everything, and you can see how long ago it was because it wasn't even in HD. It was, TVs used to be that shape, for you're just looking at me blindly. So, had we not been willing to explore our creative breadth and scratch the itches of being multidisciplinary, we would never have made Solar. I would have carried on making websites, Ed would have carried on doing his thing, and we wouldn't have had the early entry into our career that we had. I wouldn't still have this as the pillar, the cornerstone of my entire career. I've basically made my entire career of making similar bets. There's a thing over there I want to do, I'm going to go and give it a go. Am I certain about its outcome? Absolutely not, and boy have I stumbled along the way, but there's also been moments like Solar. I meet a lot of crazy people, and so many times I hear, oh, I'd love to make a film, but I'm not a filmmaker. I'd love to design a brand, but I'm not a designer. I'd love to write the thing, I'm not a writer. I hear this all the time. If you want to specialise, that's fantastic, please do. I believe in your decision. If that's where your passion is, fantastic. If you don't want to specialise, then don't. And the reality is there is no one standing around waiting to say, you're a designer, go back over there. And if you do hear those people, they're assholes, they don't want to help you. It's really useful to have a foundation knowing one thing. Like the courses you're on now, awesome for the launching of a career. I promise you those skills are transferable. And if you want to be multidisciplinary, go and explore that thing. If I woke up tomorrow and I turned to my wife and went, you know what, today I want to be an eye surgeon. There's loads of people who could stop me from being an eye surgeon, with good fucking reason. If I woke up tomorrow and said, you know what, I'm going to make an online course, I'm going to write a book, I'm going to make a film, there's no one to stop me doing that. And the second I start doing that thing, I am that thing. You are that thing as soon as you do that thing. Number 3, learn forever. I'll tell you my favourite story ever, which I think is mythical. It doesn't matter, it's my favourite story. There was this expert blues guitarist who played a show in St. Louis, and the crowd were mesmerised. They were witnessing the height of guitar artistic talent. And at the end of the show, there's a kid sat at the front of the stage. And after packing up all their gear, the guitarist goes up to the kid, and the kid says, wow, that was really amazing. How long did it take you to learn the guitar? And the guitarist chuckles and turns back, and he says, I'll let you know when I've learned. Right, which is like the perfect, coolest. I wish I was that cool with an answer off the cuff. But how often do we think that is the safest place to put our bet, right? When do we ever want to look like our foot isn't on stable ground, that we're willing to draw attention to a weakness, that we don't know everything we know? We spend so much time investing so heavily in our self-image that we don't want to draw attention to things that we don't know. And that can be a real deterrent and a real problem for dissuading creativity. So, I'll tell you a story. When we see someone we admire, throw out a name of an agency you admire. Anyone. Company, designer, doesn't matter. Filmmaker. Someone give me a name. You must admire someone.
Studios.
Huh?
Like Studios.
Cool. When you see them, when you see anyone, so I admire Danny Boyle, and I admire Brad Bird, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. We'll gloss over that. I see the final thing. I see Brad Bird as the Oscar-winning writer and director of some of the best animated films in history. What I don't see is the path that got him there, or the activities that keep him there, because those things are camouflaged, and that's the mechanics of becoming renowned. The sensationalized stories are the success, and we must never see the progress to get there. And there's a world away between me and understanding how they got there. What we need to feel like is that we're always in the development of something. That there is no finish line, there's no horizon where we've reached the final state of being Ian, or being John, or Sarah, or whatever. We need to feel like there is a continued pursuit of a thing. It's really dangerous to assume anything otherwise. I'll show you a time when I fell into this trap. After we made the Jamie Oliver app at the first startup that I was part of, we had kind of carte blanche to work with anyone. We were very briefly, in a very small world, very well known. And we had the opportunity to work with literally fucking anyone. And the best story is we were offered to work with John Legend. And we said no, because he wasn't big enough at the time. I'll go down in history as the person who said I don't want to work with John Legend. We were approached by a creative artists agency in Hollywood. And they represent about 2/3 of Hollywood talent. We'd already done this thing with Jamie. Our model was really simple. We build a product, we attach a major brand to it, and we build the property off the back of that. We did one in cooking, we wanted to do one in fitness, and then one in entertainment and so on. And creative artists agency said, who do you want to work with from a fitness perspective? And we said, we haven't got a clue. They gave us some like NFL stars and some whatever. And then they said, how about this guy? Does anyone know who this is? Does no one know who this is? Okay, well this is George St. Pierre. George St. Pierre is a former welterweight champion in the UFC. So if you're interested in martial arts, it basically goes Bruce Lee, George St. Pierre. If you're Canadian, it basically goes David Beckham, George St. Pierre. So really big deal. We didn't want to work with someone super famous, like not a Serena Williams or a Roger Federer or anything like that, or Ronaldo. We wanted to work with someone who was an absolute master in their field, but someone who we had a chance to be able to work with, frankly, and gave us the time. So we made this product called Touch Fit. It was the first fitness product on the iPhone market that genuinely understood you, your level of fitness, and coached you along the way. It was genuinely a really impressive piece of tech that helped act as a coach for your fitness. And we worked with George over the course of several months, building the app, developing it. This was all our own money. We spent about £250,000 building it over the course of about a year. All the branding, all the positioning, everything that goes with this, all the photo shoots, all the video production, all done in-house. And when I say in-house, there's 4 of us working with this company in our tiny office in East London in Shoreditch. And that was it. At one point we had a PhD grad to do some really fancy maths, because that was beyond us all. Other than that, it was all down to the 4 of us, and it was an awesome 6 years of my life, because we were all in this thing together trying to figure out how the hell do we do this stuff, not having any clue. And we'd never worked with talent before Jamie, we'd never built a fitness product, and that was a problem for the future versions of us, right? We were just going to work it out along the way. And as part of this product, we had a 2-day shoot in Montreal where George lived. Now, in this app, there were 526 exercises. We needed George to perform those exercises, we needed to film him doing it and take pictures of every single one. And we only had him for 2 days. I have never seen someone work so hard in my life. We were dawn till dusk. George, we hired this amazing home in Montreal, and we had this giant fucking film crew, as you can see. That was his trainer, Patrick Beauchamp, who also trains the Canadian gymnastics team, the Olympic team. And we had all this gear, we had all this stuff. Now, I was on this shoot. Because of the time pressures, there were tons of things on the shoot I had never seen before. The way the chap who was taking all the cards and the cameras and organising the data, I'd never seen his method of doing that before. The lenses the guys operating the cameras were using, I'd never seen before. And I was desperate to ask those guys to explain this stuff to me. And I was also acutely aware I was from the company paying for the whole thing, supposedly leading the shoot, and that guy is much louder. I wanted to ask them, and the other voice in my head said, you should really look like you know that stuff already. Right? And I didn't ask them, and now I'll never know. So from that point on, my creativity is limited, because I forgot an absolute rule of creativity, which is always be willing to put your hand up and ask the damn question. Now, I make a real effort these days to be willing to look like an idiot for a couple of minutes versus a couple of years. In this case, many decades. Right? It's really, really hard to do. The most successful people in the world know that their education is never over. Like the blues guitarist, like all the really important, really impressive people I've worked with. I'll never forget, is a predominant factor in creative success, regardless of your discipline, regardless of where you go in the industry. This was the hardest lesson I've learned in my career by an absolute mile. Number of attempts is directly proportional to success. And rejection is the norm, not the exception. And we just have to make friends with that as quickly as humanly possible. The times I've failed most spectacularly is when I've cared just too goddamn much about the idea. When I've put everything on the line. When I've been convinced this idea is going to be the one. This has got all of me in it, and my God, this is going to be amazing when it's made. Find a way to have a slight degree of indifference, with a slight degree, not total degree, a slight degree of indifference about your ideas. And I'm going to give you an example. Knows their work is a numbers game. What that means is, you're more than one idea. Just because the last lap didn't get made doesn't mean I won't have other great ideas. I've got 10 of them that I don't have time to get to, but I know they're sitting there, and I know I can get to them at some point. A good creative professional knows that every time you hear no, and you will hear no, can't tell you the amount of times a publisher said no before someone took my book. It's another chance to make a connection. It's another lesson that you can learn. You are gifted with something to sharpen that particular idea or that particular discipline. And a good creative professional is in a position of readiness. Now, I wasn't in a position of readiness. What do I mean by that? Well, you've got the next idea ready to go. Apple TV said, we fucking love this, but we don't really do Christmas specials. And it doesn't really fit, we can't really find the right commercial model for it. And they said, hey, what else you got? The script's awesome. And I was like, I don't know anything. I don't know anything for you. But maybe I will soon. And you know what, I asked Apple TV exactly what their budgets were, desires were, everything. I have this kind of spreadsheet of how you can pitch to Apple and get something commissioned in all likelihood. But I was ready with the next thing, which was the tech startup I started 3 years ago. Now, the professional creative knows, well, that one didn't mean nothing. It mean 2 years of learning. I now know how film is commissioned, I know the financing models of short film, I know how to find an exec producer, I know how to work with an animation studio, I know how to write a script which I didn't know previously, I know how to write treatment which I didn't know previously. But nevertheless, the next project was there waiting, which is to start this health technology company, which I founded 3 years ago with my co-founder. And this is we're a venture capital-backed company. It's a digital product that helps people manage chronic disease. So things like asthma, type 2 diabetes, hypertension. There's about 26 million people in the UK, and we have this rising human and economic cost of long-term conditions. It basically costs about £7 out of every 10 that the NHS spends. Giant problem worldwide, needs solving. It's not a clinical problem, it's a product problem. So AIDS uses natural language to have short daily conversations with people to help them manage their health. So it is based on conversation. That's a bet we made 3 years ago before ChatGPT was even a thing. And we've built a really nice product, really nice brand around it. And this is what takes my time today. I have no idea if this will be a success. But hey, define success. Is success the idea? Is success raising venture capital to get it going? Is success building a team? Or is success selling it for $100 million in 5 years? No idea. And the chances of that last one happening are very minute. But the main reason, main learning from the last lap was I sold it badly. Now this is a benefit of, you know I said creativity is a numbers game good? The good is, well, what's the learning of the last lap? I could not understand. I pitched to C-suite boards of giant Fortune 500 companies. I've never had a problem selling an idea in to anyone before ever in my life. Our team at AKQA over the course of 6 years had an 80% pitch success rate. That's twice the industry average because of the way we did it and just our certain degree of indifference. I pitched the last lap badly because I cared too much. And I forgot all the principles of how I should pitch creative work. Now, I was like, well, I've got to codify this, I'll write another book. And I thought, you know what, I don't want to write another book. I want to do a different challenge. So I took everything that was the failure of the last lap and turned it into everything I know about pitching an idea. And I have this online course called Sell the Idea. This took 3 months to launch based on 3 years of learning, really 20 years of learning, tiny amount really of money comparatively. It's been featured in Fast Company. It's 22 lessons, it takes 2 hours to run through. And we've had some of the best companies in the world go through it and some really nice reviews. And as I was coming up here, I was thinking, well, what can I offer you guys beyond just me talking? And well, what I can do is just give you the damn thing for free. So it's 139 quid usually. If you use that code UOC at the checkout, It's just nothing, and you can just have it. I don't want your money. You've got other stuff to pay for. But if you think you'll benefit, all you need to do is grab that QR code or go to selltheidea.co, click buy. When you get to the checkout, there's a tiny little button on the left that says add voucher code. If you type in UOC, you get 100% off. If you want it, please feel free. The only thing I'll ask you is please do it in the next kind of 48 hours, because I have to kill that code, because these things leak, and you know how it is. It'll end up on fucking Reddit tomorrow. And 15% of every sale goes towards the LED Shift, which is the free night school for creatives who want to get into the industry who didn't go through formal education. So I want them to get something off the back of it as well. But if you want it, anyone in this room, please feel free, just use UOC. Does everyone grab that? Cool. All right, so I'll shut up in a sec. Unpoliced thought is the reminder that the illogical leap of faith in creativity is usually the thing that surfaces potential. And you have to do everything in your power to fight for that track, rather than the easier, safer, rational, based on precedent idea. Creativity is transferable. As much as you want to be multidisciplinary, you are entirely capable of doing it. There's no one who's standing around saying, don't be a filmmaker, don't be a writer, or whatever. Use the skills you have in design and game and whatever you're studying, and parlay that into the next thing as much as you want to. And you always come back, and no new skill sacrifices the older skill. It all comes back together. Learn forever, which is a reminder that our education is never over. Don't be afraid to sell yourself. Don't be afraid to assign your value. Don't be afraid to ask for the thing you really want to do. Don't wait around for someone to gift it to you, because they might, but probably not, is the reality. And remember that you are more than one idea. You are a collection of ideas, and along the way someone will say no, but just remember the Mr Beast and the Margaret Atwoods and everyone else. Everything I've talked about today, there's quite a lot of articles on my site written for like Fast Company and Creative Review and stuff like that, of which a lot of this is covered. I have a weekly newsletter that's completely free on Substack, where I say weekly, I haven't written it for 4 weeks, but usually I do. That's completely free. I talk about this stuff. I'm also on LinkedIn. Now, I imagine, as a student, LinkedIn seems like the least sexy place to be, but you do need to be there. It really does help from a perspective of professional access. And I really, really mean it. Be on Instagram. TikTok, I'm too old, I don't understand. Instagram, yes. Definitely have a LinkedIn account and make it look good. Have a nice shot, get your mates to on your iPhone, have a nice header. Even though today there's nothing on it except you're studying or maybe an internship or two you've done, please create one. It's just way easier for people like me to find you when we're running teams and agencies. Then also in kind of July, August time every year, I've done it for the past 6 years, I do a showcase of what I, in my opinion, think are some of the kind of best creatives in the country, and I showcase them. Almost always, half of those people get an internship or a job off the back of those articles. So if you connect with me, and please do, I'm very happy. I'll pretty much like, look, come on in, we'll chat. If you want to message me, that's cool. But it means I can find you for that easier, and when you post work, I can share it, and I'll champion the course as best I can. You're in an awesome place. I visit most universities across the country. There's a reason I came here, because of the size of it and the courses and the spirit that I felt when I was here. Make the most of it. You should be super proud of where you're at, because there's universities I go to where I don't say that, if I'm being honest. But that being said, do everything you can to get yourself professionally sound and ready for when you're about to get into the market and look for jobs. And you can do that now if you're a first year even, But hit me up, message me, I'm around if you need. I hope that's been helpful.
Wow, I'm inspired. Thank you, Ian. That was amazing. Do we have any questions? Please? Anybody have any questions? Here we go, Oscar.
Not well. I still wrestle with that now, if I'm being perfectly honest. Yeah, not well. Fucking hell. Yeah, I remember I had an advertising lecturer here, and I think the stance he took was, there's some people who react to their buttons being pushed, and they go, I'll be better from this point on, and I'll fucking prove you wrong. And like some people really, whereas I'm like, fucking what? Like it just doesn't work on me. There's other ways of motivating me, and I think this lecturer thought I was the kind of guy that if he pushed my buttons, I'd like rally and elevate to another level, and it was the exact opposite. And he gave me feedback on one campaign we were doing for Levi's. To be fair, the work was shit actually, but he really pushed my buttons. I just got into this giant argument with him. Not my best moment.
Was it Tony?
No, what was his name? Oh, he can't still be here. There's no way he can still be. Maybe he is. God, that'd be funny. No, I've never been great at it, but the indifference thing helps me, which is, I desperately want to know if it is this Tony.
Sounds like it.
No, I've never been brilliant. Even today, and it's not because I think I'm better than everyone. It's because it just hurts. It's because I care. And the last laugh, there was so the reason why the last laugh hurt is because, and I missed this bit out, I took the script to everyone, not to get commissioned, to like say, hey, tell me about this. I met with, when I was not working for a KQA, I met with more like the who's who of UK exec producers and writers. I almost always had to take them to a fucking Ferndale hotel and have peppermint tea in fucking London. It cost me a fortune. And and I gave them the script, I gave them the project. These people did not need to humour me because they didn't know who I was, and they like, it's not like your mum going, oh, it's great. It's like, if it was bad, they would have gone, like, nice try, do the next one. Everyone said this project is great. But then there was one guy who went, I was at some fucking, I just showed up at this kids animation festival called, I can't remember where it was. I just drove down, bought a ticket, drove down. I was like, well, I'll meet some people and talk to some animation producers. And there was this one guy who had been given the script by one of the producers, and I bumped into him, and he just pissed me off. The reality is most people have bad feedback. Most people have feedback that's just not useful. If someone said, Ian, if you tightened up the motivation of William, I think it'll pay off better at the end. And I go, tell me more. And I ended up, this is really bad, I ended up killing his dad in the script. In the original script he had a dad. His dad was alive. And I thought, no, this will mean more if he's trying to follow in his father's footsteps and honour him, like his legacy. Absolutely the right decision. And that was off a piece of feedback. So usually I'm okay with it, but when it's useless feedback, I get really wound up. And this guy who read it said, yeah, it's not as good as Wallace and Gromit though, is it? I'm like, no, you're right, it's not, because, you know, Nick Park is the most lauded Oscar award winner in the country. Yeah, it's not as, anything else? And I just got really wound up by this guy. And part of me just goes, well, what the fuck do you do? Which is not good. If it's useless feedback, I get wound up. If it's genuinely helpful, I'll be like, oh, but yeah, I like that, tell me more. And I was terrible as a student though. Try not to make it personal. It's not personal. Your lecturers want you to be as good as you can possibly be at this point. And they're all very experienced, and they know what they're doing. And yeah, I'm sure you've all had pushbacks and stuff that wound you up, but at this moment they're trying to, there's no agenda other than to make you as good as humanly possible. Whereas once you get out to the industry, there's lots of different agendas of people just being assholes, which you'll have to contend with a different way. Try not to take it personally and just critically evaluate if that piece of feedback is genuinely what will make you sleep better at night and make you feel better at your craft. And probably at this stage, most of the time it will be. But if it makes you feel any better, I hated it. Yeah, as a student. I can probably find it. Oh, I've got it on. Who did I? Can I get on the internet?
Probably not.
Oh,
We also.
I think it needs to be on the internet to get it. Let me see. I need the internet. Yeah, never mind. Next time. It's on my LinkedIn actually. I have posted it. So it's somewhere the last like 10 or so posts. There's French Ian. And a really good mate of mine who messaged me after he saw it and he went, "You're better in French." I ain't better. I'll hang around, so if you want to ask me other questions,
Yeah, we'll
please.
keep to the studio.
Yeah, cool. All right.
Would you like to look over